This podcast is designed to help you when you start planning your creative writing element in the two language papers. My intention as I start speaking is that the podcast will last 10 minutes. And this is the length of time that I think you have available to you to plan carefully in the written exams. My belief is that somewhere in the region of 10 minutes planning, followed by perhaps 25 minutes, 30 minutes at the most, writing, is actually plenty to write a good piece of creative writing. Many students, if they plan at all, plan for about half a minute. And I want to try in the course of this conversation to draw your attention to perhaps ways that you can improve your planning, but also ways that you can maximize the marks available to you with a little bit of care in this area. So, here goes. I've told you before in one of my earlier revision class podcasts about the actual tasks, and I suggest you go back and listen to that podcast to remind yourself of that, or use the revision guides that I hope many of you have bought. Failing that, go online, go to the Welsh Examination Board website and download some past papers. Take a look at those. Broadly speaking, however, you have creative writing tasks that will fall under the heading of narrative and or descriptive, and then transactional. And in the transactional one, the non-fiction writing essentially, this may take the form of a variety of formats, such as a speech, a letter, a report, and so on. Planning for any of these needs to move very definitely from the generalized sweeping statement to the particular. Now, within the mark schemes for WJEC marking, there are marks to be picked up in the highest boxes for precisely this, moving from the general to the particular. And if we take the fictional writing first, perhaps, and look at either the description or the narrative, it's quite easy to see how this works. When faced with a question, describe the scene in a busy supermarket, for example, to take descriptive writing, many students will simply start to write a list, and they'll write child in aisle, fruit, noise, and so on. These are sweeping, generalized comment. If this is all you do, then when you come to write your essay, you are still having to stop to consider even what you're going to write, let alone how you're going to express it. And this is the point I want to get over. 10 minutes, and so far we've had 2 minutes 51, is not a long time, but it's much longer than you think. It is plenty long enough to move from the initial statements of generalized topic, noise, to the specific, what sort of noise is it? Is it a popular pop song being played over the loudspeakers? If it is, what song is it? What does it sound like? Is it meandering muzak with no point whatsoever? If so, what does it actually sound like? And so on. And in your plan, maybe with a flow chart, I often think is the easiest way to do this, though people do it very successfully with sort of spidergram type affairs. You need to be moving from the general to the specific, even at this stage. And that includes, possibly, if it has come to you, coming up with the simile, the metaphor, whatever it might be that you're going to use to actually describe it. One technique that I've seen used only once this year by a student waiting to write a descriptive piece, which I thought was super, was this. In addition to the normal sort of flow chart of how the essay is going to look, planning, this student had actually drawn, in essence, her essay plan. Quite simply, on her page, she had put a little X, if you like, for herself, and then to her left, to her right, in the distance, closer to hand and whatever, had then planned visually what she was going to be writing in which paragraph, with a definite intention of ensuring that she didn't lose the sense in the descriptive writing that she is meant to be observing from a stationary position everything that is going on around her. Now that struck me as a really good technique and very, very sensible indeed. It's fairly obvious, I think, that in the pure narrative, exactly the same happens. The story will be given a title by the examination board, and you cannot just accept as a plan in the house, in his bedroom. Central character, a boy. Start at this stage in your planning to put detail into your writing, and you will find when you come to actually then write the story or the description or whatever it might be, it will flow so much more easily off your pen. Obviously, I'm not saying you must take 10 minutes, regardless of the time available in the whole exam, and so on. I trust you to be moderately intelligent and to be using your watches from time to time to see what time you have left. My point is that when you have time, the 1 minute, 5 quick words, then write, is not sufficient to help you get good marks. In the non-fiction tasks, much the same happens. Here, however, there is a little extra that you have to be aware of. It's vitally important that you do write in the required format of the transactional task. Thus, if you're asked to write a speech, your speech must begin with an introduction suitable to a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whatever it might be, something of that kind. It just must, because you've been told to write a speech. Equally, if you've been told to write a letter, it must be laid out like a letter. A report must be laid out as a report. Here you can have bullet points, you can have subheadings, you should possibly even have some form of bullet-pointed index or number-pointed index at the beginning to say what it is you're going to be writing about and what the areas of writing are. The format matters, and in your plan you really should just quickly address the format. Keep it in your head at all times. Then you move on to the task at hand, what it is you're actually going to say, as clearly, but once again, marks are obtained in both types of creative writing for writing with variety, showing that you can confidently use a wide range of vocabulary or of punctuation to create deliberate effect. In your plan, you really should be trying to show that you are capable of doing this. Your plan should already be letting you find words to use, find effects to use. I've just marked a piece of speech writing as a practice piece. I was very pleased to see in the plan that the student had actually written rhetorical question triplet at the top of a little thing there. She was working out what to put, and sure enough, in the essay there was a really nice question, a really nice paragraph in this speech. 3 well-written rhetorical questions, one after another, just asking to be given marks. If you don't plan in that detail, I worry, not without reason, given my experience of reading work over the years, that you will not do yourself justice to the degree of variety and imagination you are capable of putting into your writing. Punctuation for effect. If you have to, list the punctuation you're going to use. Make sure you get an exclamation mark, some question marks, a couple of dashes into your writing. The best and most efficient way of doing it is to put something into quotation marks and provide either evidence for a point you're making, perhaps in a serious article, or just quoting another source in a speech or something of that nature. Your confidence to do this will help you get marks, but you won't do it if you don't plan to do it. Just as if you don't plan to do it, there is absolutely no way as you write your story you will mess around with modes of locomotion. Your characters will walk, they might run. They're very unlikely to do anything else in between, which might actually lead to an examiner saying, yeah, this child has a really good imagination, a strong vocabulary, they're confident to use it, and I want to give them marks. Task, format, variety. That's what it's about. Now, the time has gone on. It's now 9 minutes and 52 seconds as I say this, and it's time, were you writing, for you to be turning to your essays. That is 10 minutes of planning.